Okay, so thank you all for being here tonight. So Rad, thank you very much for accepting this invitation to introduce the game Mégawatts and Marbles. It explains how the electricity network actually works. So we are pleased to hear you tonight. So I can leave you now the floor and you can share and start sharing your presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Julia. Good evening, everyone. In fact, still here this afternoon. My name is Rad. As Julia said, I'm a PhD student at the University of Victoria, and I'm working with Institute of Integrated Energy Systems. I've been involved in Mégawatts Marbles for a couple of years now. I'm not one of the actual creators. All the people who created the game, they graduated. But I worked with that team for a short time before they get graduated. So today I'm going to present the principles of the game and the idea behind that. And also I'm going to play the game a bit by myself. It should be usually a couple of teams to make it more fun, but today is only me. So I'm just going to show you how the game works in general. Yes, so let's start with some acknowledgements. So this game developed in this institute, and this such a thing cannot be developed only by one person. It needs a team of people. And all the names that you see down there, they have been involved in this game and helping into developing it. There are some happy pictures of us, and it sort of shows you what the game looked like. You're going to see it later. But let's start with the basics. What is power? When we talk about power, what we see is actually the energy charges in our bill. This bill is something. It is my own bill. My electricity bill. It's 490 kilowatt hour of energy consumed in the period of 59 days. I love baking and I use my oven quite often, so that's why I use too much energy for one person. But what is the meaning of power? When we talk about power and energy, what do we mean by that? If you look at one basic baseboard heater, which is quite popular to see that in Canada, it needs 1 kilowatt of power. If it is on for 1 hour, then it is 1 kilowatt hour of energy. So we have to be aware of what's the difference between power and energy when we play this game. In this game, we mainly talk about power rather than energy. And that's why this name is called megawatts, because in reality, we deal with megawatts. When we talk about the grid system, megawatts and gigawatts, we talk about a grid system. So another example is if you have 2 half a kilowatt of baseboards and use them for 2 hours. So again, we have 1 kilowatt hour of energy, consumed 1 kilowatt hour of energy. And energy is what we see in our bill. So 490 kilowatt of energy in 59 days, which is 1,416 hours, it means on average I use 0.3 kilowatt of power. Or if I had a baseboard on all the time, it means it is equal to more or less 17.5 days of energy consumption of one baseboard. So knowing what is power and what is energy, let's talk about what uses electricity. What is using electricity is, in general, there are three main criteria. It's either residential, it is commercial and institution, like residential means housing, like the place that people live. It is commercial institutions, like it can be university, it can be the offices, or it is industrial, so what we use in the factories. And ballpark, what we can say is each of them uses 1/3 of generated electricity, depending on the country, but we can, on ballpark, we can say each of them uses 1/3. And what generates electricity? It is it is based on a report from IEA. It is the percentage you see which each source generates electricity. For this case, we see in 2000. Okay. Oh, sorry. So in this case, you see in 2017, based on IEA report, International Energy Agency report, almost 70%, 39% of electricity generated by coal, 23% natural gas, 16% by hydro, 11% by nuclear, and 7% by others. So in 2017, which is 5 years ago, we can still see most of the energy generation that we have is not that environmental friendly. Coal is most polluting way of generating electricity, and still 39% is of our electricity generation is based on that. This is changing country by country, but this is based on the global view. So electricity is, there is no, we have to talk about supply and demand in electricity when we talk about this game. Electricity doesn't, when we talk about supply and demand, just imagine a bakery. So for a bakery, you have a baker, they bake 10, 20, 30 loaves of bread, and they keep it there. And the demand is people. So they go there and they buy one of them or two of them, but the rest can stay there till someone comes and pick it up. But for electricity, there is no store. There is no place that you can store your energy in large quantities that you can give it to the market based on demand. You can talk about batteries, but batteries are still very small scale of electricity that we are using. So they're not, we cannot really store large quantity of electricity. So what we generate should go to the houses, should go to the factories, should go to the institutes and offices and get used. There is no place to store it. So it should be always supply equal to demand. So we have a supply and it should be equal to demand. And how it works is we turn on our TV. Let's say we turn on our TV tonight to watch something. So the moment we turn on the TV, we put this demand on the grid and our transition system. And that demand should be met. Otherwise, what would happen? What would happen is we are going to have a power out. So we're not going to have any electricity. So this is the thing that we need. We need to always have the supply and demand goes hand in hand and together. Also, we cannot overgenerate or undergenerate. Both of them can cause blackouts and cause a problem for us. So keep that in mind, because this is actually, this balance, this delicate balance is something that we need to keep in mind for every second when we talk about energy generation. For example, as an example, we have a demand of 1 kilowatt. We go back to our baseboard. So this, when we turn it on, 1 kilowatt of power should come from the grid connection and goes into our baseboard. Generation can be some solar panels. So a house solar panels can more or less generate 1 kilowatt of power. And if you have 1 million baseboards, it means we need 1 gigawatt of power. Then you need a dam, like the sea dam site. The picture that you're saying is the rendering of that, which is generating 1.1 gigawatt of power for us. It's the capacity actually. So it's the So these are so what we talk about till now. We talk about what is the demand, where the demand is coming from. We said the demand coming from the three sources: residential, commercial, and industries. We talk about we have to meet always supply and demand should be meeting each other. So at the moment that you have the demand, you have to generate enough electricity to supply that demand. And also we talk about the transition system. So that transition is something that connects a generation to the demand. It is what we have to use. These three are actually the game elements. So the game elements coming from first, the demand. So it starts by what is the demand of the hour that we are going to, we have to supply. So the way it works is we are going to tell the participants what is the demand of the specific hour of one day. And then the transition system in this game is represented by the towers that we have. And then we have these marbles. So these marbles, what they are doing, and the name of the marbles coming in this game is coming from the gigawatts of power that there is going to be moved from or generators, which can be wind, which can be coal, it can be different type of generators, or a generator mix, to which we present them as with a funnel, to our to our oh, the animation didn't work. Okay, the generator mix or one generator to meet the demand. So the way it works, you're gonna see it when I'm playing the game. The way it works is we drop these marbles into this funnel, which each of them is going to represent 1 gigawatt, which is a big number in this case. And by moving these marbles from the generator to a city that we represent that, we're gonna make this game happen. What is important is at every hour, we have to keep the supply equal to demand. So this delicate balance should stay steady. Yeah, okay, we talk about that. Okay, so what is the objective of a game? Objective is generators should work together to meet the demand that we are going to supply. We're talking about the game. So the game, when we talk about the game, what is the objective of the game? The objective of the game is generators, which we have different, a couple of them here. We're going to see a couple of them next slide. They have to work together in order to supply the demands that is presented to the people who are present in the games. We have 12 intervals, or we divide the day into 12 intervals, and so it means every 2 hours, one demand. And we announce that demand. And there are 3 steps that game participants should do. First, discover what is the demand every hour, tell them, which we are going to tell them. Then decide a number of marbles that they're going to use per generator, how they can decide that. So we're going to see that, but there is some, that we put some negative points for generating the electricity from coal or gas in order to represent the carbon or CO2 emission that we are seeing from them. And after putting the marbles in each generator, they're releasing the marbles, and they're going to get through the pipes, which are our transition system, going to our CD that we have there. And then we collect them into something that you can look at them later and count them, which is, we call it collector. So we have, there are different generators. The first 4 generator that we are going to introduce in this game is coal, hydro, wind, and peaker gas. What we have to, another thing that is important for this game is the characteristic of each generators. So how do we use them? Like what is the reason that we use a specific generator? These characteristics are incorporated in this game. What are the characteristics of a coal power plant, hydropower plant, wind, and peaker gas? We go through these 4, but we have more generators, which I'm not going to talk about in this presentation, but this is just an example of what are these 4 generators and what are the characteristics that we take into account. The first one is coal power plant. How it works, the way it works is we generate electricity by spinning a turbine with the steam of burning coal. So we burn coal, we boil the water, we generate the steam, and then we use that to move a turbine. You can think about that is like a campfire. So it is slow to start a fire, and it is slow to get a bigger fire. And it is also slow for fire to burn out. It takes time. Or another alternative is coal-fired steam locomotive train. So they are also, it takes time to build up. It takes time to slow down. It takes time to change the speed. What does it mean? It means for this game that we are using, they have large capacity. For example, this is what we call it a base load in transitions. But it is every 2 hours when we want to go to the next 2 hours in the game, you can change the number of marbles that you generated from the previous hour only by 1 or 2. So for example, if in the first hour when you start the game, you start at 9 marbles, which means 9 gigawatt. If you go to the next hour and then you want to change your coal generation, you can go to 10 or you can go to 8. You cannot suddenly go to 12. This is the nature of the coal power plant. It is slow to rise and slow to go down. However, another one is Pickering natural gas. How this one works? This one is, again, you burn gas, you boil water, you generate steam, and then you use that steam to make to rotate a turbine. So its principle is the same. Analogy for this is like the barbecue with gas. So that one is very quick. So as soon as you turn the heat up, the heat goes up and you have more heat. So you can generate more heat, therefore you can generate more steam and you can generate more power. So it can work based on what you put in. It can suddenly increase it quite a lot. That's why it's called peaker gas, because in the peak hours, you can use it to cover the demand that you have in your system. Again, you can put as many as you want, but usually peaker gas are small capacity, because they're expensive to operate, and they're not used that very often. You only use them when you need to meet the peak of your electricity generation. So yeah, that's because they are very quick. They are used they are used in the peak hour of your demands. Another thing that we have, another generation that we have is a wind farm. So how do wind farm generate electricity? The way that generate electricity is they capture the wind with their long blades that they have. They turn and they move, they transit this rotation to a generator, and that generates the wind. They have no emission. They're renewables, they're green. So it means we have this wind, which is most of the time is blowing, and we generate wind power from that one. But what if there is no wind? It means we don't have any power. And what if we don't know how much wind we are going to have? Like we cannot really predict how much wind we are going to have for the day after or for a week from now. It is really hard to predict those things. In other words, we cannot control the wind. It is not like a coal power plant that we know that we have the coal, or a gas power plant that we know we have the gas. We don't have any control. And this is the intermittency of wind turbines or wind power generation. Intermittency means we may not have electricity in the time that we need electricity from wind. And that is one of the drawbacks of renewable energies, especially wind and sun. You may have your peak at 6 p.m. of today, of this hour, which is, I think, more or less in Quebec right now, but you may not have anything. So what you should do, you have to keep that in mind. Usually wind powers are small capacity. In this game, there are different options for this game, so you can build your own. And then each wind power can generate 0, 1, 2, 3 gigawatt of power. In order to incorporate that intermittency into the game, we made the deck of cards. So for every hour, you flip a card, and based on the card that you flip, which I'm going to show you there, you generate a specific amount of wind. Generate a specific amount of power from wind. It's better. Yeah, and the last one is hydropower plant, where the power from hydropower plant comes, which is I think the majority of the power generated in Quebec is hydropower plant. It is based on a dam, based on the water behind the dam. So the water goes to a turbine, it just turbine in electricity. It is clean electricity, and it is largest form of renewable energy, renewable electricity globally. And the problem with hydro is it cannot be everywhere. It has limited resources. You need a specific geological condition to be able to build a hydro dam, and in a specific situation, natural situation, to be able to build this hydro dam. The good thing about hydropower plant, it can easily change. It can easily increase it or decrease it by by opening or closing the gates that you have. So for this game, we usually there are usually medium capacity, so it depends on how you design your game. But there is a limited reservoir you have that for the dam that you have. You cannot always you don't have unlimited amount of water behind your dam. And in order to keep things going, there is a minimum discharge in every turn of the game. These things are not that clear, but they're going to be more clear when you play the game. And it is really hard to explain them in words as long as you haven't played the game. Rules overview. So, and the characteristics. So the coal is big and slow, so it can generate lots of power, but it's slow to ramp up and ramp down. The bigger gas is small and flexible, so it is to meet the peak hours of the time that we have. And wind is variable; it can be there, it cannot be there. And then the hydro has limited reserve, so you have to keep in mind that you don't dry out your river when you use hydro. Here we also want to talk about the generator mix. Each electricity grid system has different generator mix. So base load is what is the much of the reliable electricity in a generator mix is come from base load. Usually this base load can be coal, for example, for number 2 and 3, which number 2 is mainly Alberta, which is the coal-dominated one, and number 3 is Germany. So for these two, as you can see, most of the load is coming from the coal. So this is the base load, and then you have hydro and gas and wind, which are covering the rest of the things. Or somewhere like BC, the base load is actually coming from hydro and then a bit of coal. So this base load is something that you have to keep in mind when you are playing this game in order to be able to meet the demand. To make it more clear, this is generator types for Germany in 2016, in a week in Germany, 2015. You can see the base load for this case is a combination of coal, nuclear, biomass, and hydro. And then you have intermediate one, you have the peaker one. And intermediate one are the solar and wind, because they are not necessarily always give you a fixed amount of power. They can change based on the condition that you have. And then the peaker one is the peaker gas that we talk about that can meet the demand at the moment that you need it. Another important factor for this game is operator. Operator is actually the player in this case. The player or the participant is the one who is operating the system and deciding on how to meet the demand that we are seeing. So I think this is actually the basic of this game. may sound quite complicated or may sound quite simple. However, in order to make it more clear, I'm going to play a bit of game. But before we go that direction, I want to know if there is any question.
Nassim, you can ask your question.
Thank
you can ask your question in English or in French if you want. You just go in the French channel.
Okay, I will ask it in English if it's
Perfect.
okay. Okay. So thank you, Rad. I'm Nassim. I'm a business development associate with MyTax. It's a very interesting project. And I have a question regarding the base load.
Okay.
Actually, the base load, you said that they depend. You have like different base load. I just wanted to know if you took into consideration like a variable base load. For example, a base load at winter time and another one at summertime. Because for example, at winter time, we tend to use more coal to help like the renewable energy since the peak power are more important. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to know.
So for this game, the thing is, for this game, we just deal with 24 hours of one day, actually, 1 day of what is the demand. And that 24 hours, we don't have any specific the time of the year for that 24 hours. The way that you can think about that, or the way I can answer the question, is you as an operator or your team as an operator can design your energy mix. And then you can think about, yes, this is winter or this is summer, and I can put more coal into my energy mix. I can put less coal in my energy mix. So this is something that we never incorporated specifically based on the time of a year to design the grid or to design the generator mix. It is something that people who are playing the game can think about and do. Because there are two types that you can play this game. One type is me as the facilitator tell you, you have these 4 generators and you have to work with them. Another way is, no, you as the game player, you decide on what type of generator mix you want to use and what type you want to take into account. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Alvaro, we hear you.
Yeah, I have a good question. How do you define the load? I mean, how much energy is required? Is there a card or?
We're going to see that in the next slide, actually.
Okay.
It's a plot that it changes every 2 hours.
Oh, nice.
We shouldn't wait for 2 hours, but it changes. It shows the change of the energy demand every 2 hours. And then based on that, you're going to play the game.
Okay.
We're going to see that soon.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. If there is no question, I'm gonna. Can I change? No. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Do you need help or anything?
I am trying to change my video because okay, let me see. Maybe I stop this one for a moment. I'm gonna stop the sharing and share again. Okay.
Sure.
Or actually, no, I don't need to. Okay. Should be able to see the game now.
Yes, we are.
This is a smaller version of a game. It is not the full version because I didn't have enough space to put all the game here in this room. Where's my mouse? Oh yeah, you see. Okay. February, we are here. Okay. Okay, so let's say I'm gonna move there soon, but you're gonna see me in a moment. But let's say this is our demand. So it is our demand profile, we call it. Let's say it is 2 a.m. and the demand is 13 gigawatts. So how do we play? The first thing that we, I cannot see my screen, so I hope you can see things. The first thing that we, let's see if I can rotate this. I do like that. Okay, I can see that. So these are the cars that we have for wind. I don't know if you can see it or no, but if you look at these cards, you can see it has a time. It shows the time of a day, and then it says that it has a description. So here it says light wind and says there is a bit of wind. Your turbine starts rotating and generate a bit of electricity. Let's hope for breeze builds. So it's also a bit of fun there. Sense of humor. And so it says 1 gigawatt, right? So here, for this case, I have this wind generator. So this one's supposed to generate 1 gigawatt of power. So how much did we have? We have 13. Okay, so I put one marble here. This is for 1 gigawatt of power that I have. I have 6 megawatt of coal power plant. So this is, so this is like the marbles that we're using. So these are black for coal. So I put 6 of these here. 1, 2. And then I have maximum of 15 gigawatts of water, of hydro. So how much did I put here? It's 6 and 7. I have another 6 and 1, 6, 7. I have another 6 that I have to put. So 1, 2, 3. You can see it or no?
Yes, we can see it. It's fine.
Okay. Okay. So now what you can see, this is the energy mix that I decided to use. In this case, this is a predefined energy mix. So like we have this card that says what is the maximum of each generator that we can use. So for example, for coal is maximum 6 gigawatt, for wind is maximum 3 gigawatt, for peaker gas is maximum 3 gigawatt, and for hydro is maximum 15 gigawatt. This mix is very similar to what you see in BC. Is more or less similar to what you see in BC. Now what we do, we have to watch out how to collect these marbles. It's going to be a bit messy. So what we see is we can release the pins. If you can see or no. This is the part that kids love the most, actually, because they play with the marbles. So I collect them in this right now. This is our hydro dam market. But usually what we need is this collector. So this collector has 12 columns, 12 pipes next to each other, and each of them is 1 hour, 2 hours. So when you put them next to each other, then you can see which generator you use for every hour. There is something not working. Okay. Yeah. So it looks like this. So we can see, like, we generated, I think we generated 6 gigawatt of power using hydro. We generated, or 7 actually, am I right? Or 6? No, 6. We generated 6 gigawatt of power using coal and 1 gigawatt of power using wind. So the first hour we met the demand, and then if you go to the next, it is 4 a.m. People are sleeping. No one is really turning on anything. So the demand is not changing that much. So again, it is the same story. But the first thing that we have to do, we have to see what is the wind condition. And it's the 4 a.m. Yeah. So 4 a.m. Again, the same story. We have only 1 gigawatt of power generated. So 1 gigawatt of power. Where are the oh, there, okay. Power of this one. So again, we generate 6 gigawatt of 6 gigawatt of power for coal, and then we have 6 gigawatt of hydro. Okay. This one. Okay. So I made a mistake. I dropped this one down there. So, but again, you can see how our generation mix is. I am going to play another hour. It's the last one. So then you get to 6 a.m. and 6 a.m. is the time that people are waking up. So what should we do? It means we increase in the demand, and we have to meet the demand. Or 6 a.m. card says light wind. So again, it's 1 gigabyte of wind. So we don't have increase in wind. So what you just put the wind in, this is 1. We know we cannot change the coal. It says 6. We were at the maximum. We cannot generate more than 6. So we put 6 again. Okay. We have limited resources for hydro. The last time, how much do we need? We need another 9. So we have 2 options. We can put 3. We can put 3 more of hydro here, or we can put 3 pico gas, because it is something sudden jump in our generation. So this 6. So we put 3 pico gas here. And then again, yep. And then we put it back in collector. So I think I made a mistake in counting probably, but it is, yeah, it looks like this in terms of collectors. So this is the way this game works. This continues and goes on for the other hours. 8, it goes higher, and then for 10 a.m., and then it goes down, and then you get to your peak hour, which is 6 p.m., and then it goes down again. So this is like a day that you play. And usually we have 2, 3, or 4 teams, and based on what is variable between different teams, if they all have the same, let's say exactly the same generator mix, is for this case is how the wind power generation is changing from team A to team B to team C to team D. So they have different wind power generation, and then they have to decide on like where they use picker gas, where they use more hydro, or if they have more coal capacity, which in this case they don't, if they can use it. Yeah, so this is almost 5. Yeah, this is the game that we developed here. Thank you very much for being here and to seeing this presentation, and I am open and ready for your questions.
Thank you, Rad. If you don't mind, we will start a moment of exchange with the participant.
Sure.
With questions again. So, Alvaro, thank you.
Yes, I have some questions about the rules. I see that you start the call with 6. I want to know if there is a limit on how to start, because you mentioned that call can just move like 1 up or 1 down, but at the beginning, that means there is no limit. You can start with 6 or 4, for example.
Yeah, so maximum call generation is, let me go back to my, that's okay, actually, you don't need to see me. Maximum call generation is 6 gigawatt in this case for what we are playing right now. And then you have to think about that coal is your base load. So if you, for example, you start at 3, and then in the 2 hours after that, you had a big peak in your demand, you cannot really build up your coal because it's too late for building it up. So that's why usually you start at 6 or 7 as your base load for coal. But you can start at 4, you can start at 0. It's totally up to you. But you have to think about that this is your base load. This is not just a load that you can suddenly from hour 2 to 4 increase it for 10 units or more than that. You can only increase it for 1 unit.
Okay. But
the penalty comes in the carbon that you're counting at the end of the day. So the game has this factor, maybe I didn't talk about it, but this has this scoring factor that more dirty energy generation that you use, you lose more points.
Okay.
And every gigawatt that you generate with carbon, you actually lose 1 point. Every gigawatt that you generate with picker gas, you lose half a point. And the rest, like the wind or hydro or nuclear in this case, they don't have any negative points. So you also should keep that in mind when you are building your generations, your generator mix.
I think you already answered my second question, but nuclear, you never mentioned nuclear. That one, is there a limit or is constant?
Again, it depends on how you design your energy mix, because you can design your energy mix. If I can show you.
I mean, what are the rules for nuclear? Okay.
So for nuclear, whatever you start, you generate the same through the hours.
Nice.
So you cannot change it anymore. So if you start at 10, you always generate 10. If you start at 5, you always generate 5. You cannot go up or down. It's always the same. So it is also the same for nuclear. It always generates the same.
Yeah.
So you can change it, but
near to reality.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nassim?
Yes, thank you. I just have a question regarding hydro. If I recall, you said that you can use up to 15 hydro marble, right?
Yes.
So why don't you use the 15 from the beginning in order to decrease the CO2 impact?
Yeah, let me see if you have it here or no.
Because during the 2 first hours, it was only 13 in the power demand.
So when you play this game, based on the capacity of hydro that you're designing, you have limited number of marbles given to you. So for example, in this case, I think we had 15 gigawatts of hydro. So only 16 marbles, you have only 16 marbles. So you have to use it wisely. Otherwise, you lose the game. So if you cannot meet the demand, and if you dry out your hydro capacity, then you're losing the game. That's why I didn't think about that, because I played this game too many times. So, but the thing that you have to keep in mind is because of you have limited capacity for generating, not limited capacity, limited reservoir for your hydro.
I think I missed the point, because you said that the 15 are not for each hours, but for the whole game, right?
50, you can generate 50 for 1 hour.
Yeah, but the next hour you won't have any left, right?
Maybe you don't have any left, because if you generate 50 for 4 hours in a row, then if you look at this part, I don't know if you can see my cursor. If you have 15, if you generate, if you have 15 gigawatts in your reservoir, you have 60 marbles.
Okay.
And if you generate 50 for 4 hours, then you are out of hydro and you're already using. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh. This game is fun to play with kids, actually. And it can get chaotic very quickly, because they grab the marbles and they run around and they put the marbles everywhere. Like whenever we take it to a school to play with the kids, I think I need 2 days of recovery. It's like, it's really tiring, but it's fun.
Maybe it's a good reason to develop an app of the game, mobile app or something.
So we didn't develop an app, but we made an agreement with Max Planck Institute in Germany that they take the game and develop an app. But then COVID happens, and then we lost all the contact and everything. The person who used to be our contact, they had a kid, and then I think they changed the company. So I really don't know what's happened on that front. We haven't heard from them anymore. Yeah, but you're right. An app could be very useful for this game. We also tried to design a mini version. Let me see if we have it out here. I can show you. No, we don't. So we also try to design a mini version to make it easier to transport, because this is quite hard to transport. Yeah.
So Alvaro will take your question, and then we have a question in the chat. It's okay like this? Okay, Alvaro.
Just quick question. Do you know how the game starts, if it's based in a city? I mean, the demand profile?
The demand profile, if I remember right, we decided based on, I think Germany, demand of the Germany for a day. I think it was that, but I'm not 100% sure. I cannot remember it.
Okay.
It was many years ago. Yeah, can't remember exactly.
And how the game start? I mean, what is the beginning of the story?
What do you mean? Can you open the question for me?
I mean, they create the game just for teaching or?
Oh, the whole story of the game.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I got it wrong. The game starts as a way to show how energy systems work. So how you can really deliver energy from your generators to the houses, and to try to simulate and model that for public audience, and make it more physical, because electricity is not really tangible. But as soon as you convert this electricity to your marbles, it's something tangible that you drop it in the funnel and it moves. So then it makes it more sensible for people that say, oh, okay, this is how it works. This is why you need the base load. This is what happened to wind. This is what happened to solar. This is what is the meaning of intermittency. All of these things come into effect and you can play with them. So that was the main reason that this game started. But then we also took it to the schools and people played and they loved it. And we took it to the sailing club for seniors and they loved it. So it found its own audience.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
So Rad, Audrey asked you for which public the game was created for, and who can play with it? Children, teenagers, students only? Yes.
Yeah, we played this game with kids, like, how old they were. I think they were second grader. So we played with them. We played this game with IESVic members, which they are PhD students, master students, professors. We played this game in a sailing club, actually, which were mainly senior. We played this game for different universities at SFU a couple of times. There was also another meeting at SFU for Sustainable Institute that they have, Sustainable Energy Institute that they have. We played this game with them, which again, the audience was mainly professors, but it is a mix. It is no specific, the main goal of this game is to be for public audience. And to have sort of a tool to show them how the grid connection and grid networks working, and how you can deliver energy from the generator to the houses and buildings and industries and everything.
Okay, thank you. And at the beginning, the game was created because your professor asked for it. It was a demand for school, for high school, for university, or it was like a game created by friends, PhD student friends. What was the context actually?
The context was mainly they started thinking about. So there was this group here, the game 2060 group, that the idea was thinking about energy systems in future. And the people who started this game, they were mainly from that group. All the people from the 2060 group, they have graduated and they started new jobs. I was not part of that group. It was before my time. So those people started to think about how they can present energy system and the grid connections and the grid system, grid network. And thinking through that, they end up with this game to present it to public audience. The idea of 2060 group was what would be energy system look like in 2060 in BC. It was the idea. And through that project, actually, this game born. And they started, I think the idea mainly started with one professor and a couple of PhD students sitting together and think about how we can do that, and then they end up with this game.
Thank you. Are there some more questions? If you want to ask question in French, you can ask question in French in the French channel, and then Nancy will translate it. For Rad, it will translate it here in the English channel. If no one has a question, I have one more question, Rad, for you.
Sure.
As an expert, what would be the best mix. I mean, is a full wind power is possible? I don't know what would be the best mix.
So it is. I don't know if I should answer that question or no. This is something that you learn by playing the game. There is no one winning mix, but you have to think about how you're losing scores, and that's mainly by generating electricity through coal or through gas. So you want to minimize that one. You want to have a clean base load, which in this case, it can be hydro or nuclear. And you want to minimize the effect of intermittency from your wind or sun. You're asking this question, and what is funny is once played this game at the school for, I think they're second or third graders. At the end of the game, we asked them, what did you learn? And one of them, we couldn't see him, but one of them said, oh, we learned that wind sucks. And then we were like, well, based on this game, to some extent you're right, but it is not the conclusion we want you to learn and take home. Yeah, I don't know if I answered your question. I didn't want to really answer your question, but I don't know if I answered your question.
No, it's okay. Thank you. I see the point.
I have a quick question. Have you think to include, I don't know, the price or the dollar cost for this to play, on the side of the power utility? Because, since there is no limit, you can maybe push to have hydro and, I don't know, renewable energies, but maybe if you put it in price, the strategy can change.
We thought about involving economy in this game. We haven't come up. We had a couple of ideas, but we haven't come up with a solid plan to involve economy in the game, and in order to make it more like cost effective. What I mean is,
sure.
How you can put a cost on each generator in order to be able to, when you choose the generators, in order to have you pay that cost beforehand, and in order to make it more realistic. We haven't come up with a method for that one yet. We have a couple of ideas and options, but we haven't ended up with anything close to that. Another thing that we have in this game is, in advanced version, is trading. So you can, when you play with a couple of teams, you can actually trade marbles. We give you a currency, which currency usually is paper clips in this case. So we give you a couple of paper clips as your currency, like 12 or 10 paper clips in each team. And each team use this paper clips or currency to buy a marble from another team if they generate more, or if they generate more for them. And then we use whatever currency you have or left for you, add them to your score to see who is the winner of the game. We took that one into account, but what you say is valid, and we are thinking about that, and we should think about it to make the game more interesting.
And do you know the game is available, or when it's going to be like released, or
the game is available
online? Okay.
Yes, so, but not online. Saying that I have to, I think, contact the people in Max Planck again. But for example, one of people here in this meeting, they said they're playing this game. I cannot remember her name.
Okay.
Audrey has two versions of the game. Yes.
Yeah, they have two versions of the game that they're playing the game. So yeah, game as a physical being, it is available and has been sold to different institutes in Canada and also here.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
So Alvaro, if you want to play, you can ask Audrey in the chat. She gave her address.
Sure,
if you want to plan parties.
Thank you.
Okay, maybe we'll take one last question, one or two last questions, so we don't keep too late.
La question était par rapport au matériel pédagogique qui était livré avec le jeu. Est-ce que finalement c'est livré comme un jeu de société complètement classique avec simplement le matériel de jeu et il y a un livret de règles, ou bien est-ce qu'il y a de la documentation technique, scientifique pour faire un petit peu la médiation et la traduction entre les aspects techniques et les joueurs?
No, the game doesn't come with scientific materials. The game, but that's a very good question, and that's a very good point actually. The game mainly comes as board game, as a big board game, I would say, which is in 2 big boxes and that get delivered. And we sort of, I think, expect that the main person who is coordinating the game has enough knowledge to deliver these things to the audience and to the participants. But we don't have, like with the game, no, game doesn't come with scientific materials next to that. But that's a good point. That's a good point that we can think about and actually add it to the game. It is important to have that to be able to increase the educational capacity of the game. And thanks for the question and comment, actually.
De rien.
Okay, thank you, everyone. No more questions for Rad? Yeah, okay. If there is no more question, maybe we can end this webinar. And so, Rad, we thank you very much for this introduction to Mégawatts and Marbles. So maybe we'll plan parties here, thanks to you. And thank you all for your presence here.
Thanks a lot for having me. It was a pleasure to present.
Thank you very much, Rad.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rad.
Thank you, everyone.
So, see you everyone on Monday. So we finish our webinars with a roundtable next Monday on the energy transition. So Rad, if you want to join, it's also in English.
Okay.
Okay. So thank you everyone, and have a good evening.
Enjoy your evening there.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Rad.